Welcome back, everybody, and welcome to your demonstration today of Lab 3. This is also an introduction to mixing inside the Wizard Editor. And there are a few things that we're going to need prior to this, including a CD from the Yellow Canary collection, which I've already got out and ready to go. This is where my production music is going to come from. And I've also gone to MediaNet, and I've already got queued up the voice that's actually going to go in with this commercial. So we're basically ready to roll here. So let me take a look at the sheet and see where we're at. First of all, we want to take a look at all the sources on our console and see where we need to be and what needs to be on as far as this lab is concerned. So we know that we're going to be using a CD here for our production music. So that means that CD1 is going to have to be turned on. We also know that the voice for the commercial is going to come from the digital audio editor. And so I'm going to go ahead and turn on the Adobe pot, or the DAE pot there. And I'm also going to need all three next-gen pots turned on as well. So we've got A, B, and C on your board. So everything is turned on and ready to go. So looking now at our lab sheet to see what we need to do, let's get us logged into NextGen. And I've got a camera that's here on the right-hand screen of NextGen, so you can see everything that's going on there. More of a zoomed-in feature, so hopefully this is going to work out. So let me go ahead and just get logged in here real quick, and I'll move everything over to that right-hand screen. And go ahead and open up my production window. Once I'm logged in, you should be able to see that now. And so when I'm in, make sure that you get into bits right away. And then, of course, you want to be able to be on, you want to look for your name here. So you're going to click on title, which is right here. I'm going to click there and type in my name. And I can go down here and see there's my name right there. And then I'm going to click on New Cut. And this is everything that we've done before in Labs, but I'm going to click on New Cut here. And I'm going to change that to Brian Anderson Lab 3 Practice 2, because we have Practice 1 that was actually in our lab demo that we had during class. So I'm going to call this Lab Practice 3-2, just for example. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit Wizard Editor. Actually, I need to change the dates on here real quick. 12/31/2099 sounds pretty good. Okay, so then I'm going to hit Wizard Editor here. And I'm going to open up my 4-track editor. Do I want to load the audio from the last session? No, I don't. So we're going to click on No. And we've got a blank slate here. Again, you've got 4 tracks, 1, 2, 3, and 4. You can put audio on any 4 of these tracks. We're going to concentrate on track 2 and track 3 here today. And remember that whatever track you click on here, this is where the red arrows should show up, and that's the track that you're actively working with. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we need to do. Load and program your music bed into CD1. So let's go ahead and pop this CD into CD1, and I'm going to skip right to the track that we were using during class. But do remember that you need to find a piece of production music that is going to fit the commercial that you're doing. So it's a good idea that you listen to the message of the commercial and that you try to find music that's actually going to match what the message is about. The feel of the voice, the feel of the commercial, the way that you should be delivering that. That should be done on any piece of production that you do, anywhere at any time. So again, I've got my production CD that's out here. If I remember right, we were on track 12. So I'm going to put it in program mode. And I'm going to queue up track 12 here. Play, pause. And once I've got that ready, I'm also going to get my, I got the Adobe ready to go with the Lab 3 voice that we have on the Adobe pod. Again, MediaNet, Broadcasting, Radio Labs, go into the Lab 3 folder, and that's where you're going to find the voice for this particular commercial that you're going to be producing. So we've already accomplished line 1 and line 2 of this lab of getting everything queued up. So now we need to check our levels before we get going to recording. So I'm going to go back to NextGen here, and I'm actually going to record the music eventually on track 2. So I'm going to click on track 2 here, and I'm going to turn my pot up on the board, and I'm going to feed some music in here. So I'm just going to hit this record button and punch my music. And we can hear that it's going, and we can see some level. Again, we are watching the level right here in NextGen. So the 80 to 100% rule applies to NextGen now. Not necessarily paying as much attention to the console, you're really paying attention to what's happening inside of NextGen. So Okay, so that looks like a pretty good level. So I'm going to hit stop and play pause again, and then I'll hit stop on my Next Gen editor. You can see again by looking at the white line here where 100% was, by the time we had everything modified and adjusted, we were ready to go with that. It was right on right here. So now let's go ahead and click on track 3, and this is where we're going to get the voice tested out here. So again, I'm going to click on record, and again my red arrow's on track 3. I'm going to click on record here and start it going. And now I'm going to go ahead and play this track from the Adobe computer.
Do you have a few cents to spare each month? Would you like to do something for the community, but you just don't have any time? Have you thought about rounding up your electric bill? By simply having your bill automatically rounded up to the nearest dollar, you can help keep the electricity on.
So again, we're just watching the level here that's coming from the Adobe computer.
NPPD
Same thing that we did
Red
with the music, and so that's all should be good and ready to go. When we hit stop, again, we're watching that white line with everything the way that it was supposed to be, and right around that 80 to 100%, and it looks like that it was. So I think that we're ready to proceed with the rest of our lab. So now let's take a look at our lab sheet here at what's next, and we're on number 4. Record your selected production music on track 2 into the Wizard editor. And at 29.5 seconds, you're going to fade the music bed out, and you're going to push stop on the Wizard editor. And so go ahead, and I'm going to click back on track 2 because that's where I want to be in Next Gen. I'm going to hit record here, and then it's going to give me some choices. See where it says beginning, cursor, end, and then it says cancel right here. If you hit record from the beginning, it's going to erase everything that you've already got in the system right here and replace it with what you're currently feeding in. Now, if I wanted to, for example, record another piece of music after this one that's already recorded, I could double click here on the end, I could hit record, and I could actually record from cursor, and it would record from right there. But what we want to do is record from the beginning in this case. So my music is queued up, and I think that we are ready to go here. So let me just hit beginning and punch the CD here. And we're going to feed it in, and I'm watching 29.5 seconds. Here's the number right over here that I'm watching. And at 29.5 seconds, I'm going to fade that out. Also watching on my CD as well. Primarily, you do want to watch the CD. 29.5 seconds on the CD. You should be fading this out. Here it comes. Okay, so by the time you get that faded out, at 29.5 seconds, you've got about 30 seconds because it's going to be at least a half second for you to get that faded out. So that one's done. Let's take a look at what's next that we've got to focus on here. And it says to trim the empty space off both ends of the music bed. So let's go back into our editor here and take a look. We've got a couple of areas of dead space here in our editor that we can get rid of right here. There's some on both ends. So again, what it's asking you to do is you can use the zoom tool, and again, if you double click anywhere, you can put your red cursor wherever you want that to go. And so I'm going to put my red cursor right at the beginning of where the music is, and I'm going to use the zoom tool at the top of the frame here, top of the monitor. It says zoom. And if you use best fit, that gives you the whole spectrum of everything. But then you can zoom all the way in as close as 1-2 seconds if you want to. I'm going to click in, go into about 8 seconds. And so now that's going to give me the dead space that we had at the beginning. Holding down both of my mouse keys at the same time, I'm going to hold them down and I'm going to drag it back to the left and highlight that area that I want to get rid of. And then on the keyboard, I'm going to hit the delete key, and it will get rid of that. I'm going to go back up to zoom, best fit, so I can see the whole entire thing. I'm going to double click on the end, and again, zoom in to about 8 seconds. I'm going to double click at the end of the audio. Using both of my mouse buttons, I'm going to hold that down and drag it all the way to the end, and I'm going to hit the delete key on the keyboard, and it will get rid of that for us. So now our music bed is in, and it looks like our levels, as you can see, right around that 80 to 100% range, so things aren't looking too bad here. So then the next step that we've got here on our lab sheet, if we take a look, we are now on number 6, record the voice audio on track 3 in the Wizard editor. So let's go back to the editor and check this out. Again, we're on track 3, so I need to make sure that I click on track 3 so my red arrow is on track 3. If I had my red arrow on track 2, hit record and recorded it from the beginning, you're going to erase your music bed. It's going to be gone. You're going to have to do it over again. So make sure that your red arrow is on track 3 for your voice, or wherever you want your voice to go, track 3 in this case. And again, we're going to hit record, and we're going to go from the beginning to record that, and then we're going to feed the audio and the voice in here. So let's go ahead and click on beginning, and then I'll trigger the voice.
Do you have a few cents to spare each month?
And again, while this is
Would you
feeding
like to do
in, you should
something
have
for
your
the
hand
community,
on
but
the
you just
fader
don't have any time?
on the board
Have
and
you thought about
constantly
rounding up your
adjusting.
electric bill?
Always
By
constantly
simply
keeping it
having your
80 to
bill
100%.
automatically rounded up to the nearest dollar, you can help keep the electricity on in a needy family's house this winter. NPPD and the Red Cross have teamed up to offer this great service to Nebraska. For more information or to sign up, call 1-877-ASK-NPPD.
Okay, so the voice is done. We're going to hit stop here on the editor. Again, looking at our levels, looks like we were right around 80 to 100%, doing a good job there. I'm going to go back up to the zoom tool here and click on best fit. The next step for us is to get rid of the empty spaces on both sides of the voice audio. So I'm going to double click at the beginning of the voice audio and get my red cursor there. Zoom in to about 8 seconds. And I'm going to highlight, again holding both of my mouse buttons down, dragging all the way to the left to the end, and hit the delete key, and it will get rid of that dead space. Clicking on best fit, I'm going to go ahead and click down here on the end, and then I'm going to go ahead and zoom into about 8 seconds there, highlight the entire dead space that I have at the end, and then click on delete. Some people like to go right on the end of the line here, right at the end of the audio. I'd recommend leaving just a little bit of a gap there, so that way, just in case your audio happens to clip off at the end, I've always left just a little bit of dead space there, but not a whole lot. You want to leave some there, but not too much. Okay, so the music and the voice are both edited down to the way that we want them. We need to click on zoom and best fit then to get a full spectrum. I can see on my music bed, because my cursor is here at the end, that it's at 29.8 seconds and my voice is at 29.5. So things are looking pretty good because we want our commercial to be 30 seconds or less. Now, one of the other things to remember, because it asks us to move everything to all the way to the left here, on your mouse, if you use your right click only on your mouse, that is going to allow you to move this around wherever you need it to go. On any track that you choose, it's going to allow you to move it. And so, as we talked about in class, you want to make sure that your voice is centered with the music. So I'm going to move that just a hair over, and should be about right there. Because if you have more music than what you do voice, then make sure that you have the right amount of intro music and the right amount of music that's coming after your voice. Okay, so let's take a look at what we have next on our lab sheet and what we need to get done. We've already accomplished number 8, holding down the right mouse button, slide both pieces of audio to the far left edge. We've already done that. That's the centering the voice out over the music that you want to do. So the next thing that I'm going to do is play back these tracks just to make sure that I have the right type of audio. Are there any hisses in it, any cracks, any pops, any unwanted sound that I might have in my audio that I don't want inside of my lab or inside of my commercial when you get out there and working. So again, we're going to click on track 2. The red arrow should go on track 2. I'm going to double click at the beginning because that's where I want it to start. Now on my console, the way that we need to do this, remember you have A, B, and C, and that's going to represent on your next gen 1, 2, and 3 tracks. So if I'm trying to play back track 2, it's the B pot, the letter B of next gen, that I need to have up to be listening to that. So let's go back to the editor here. I'm going to go ahead and click on track 2. I'm going to click this play button right here. I'm just listening to a couple of seconds here. I just want to make sure that the audio sounds okay. You know, there's no snaps, there's no pops in it, there's nothing that's unwanted that's in there. Okay, so I can go ahead and stop that and turn it down. And now I'm going to go to pot 3. So I'm going to click on track 3 here, and I'm going to do the same thing. Double click at the beginning of the track, and I'm going to hit play and just listen for quality assurance.
Do you have a few cents to spare each month? Would you like to do something for the community, but you just don't have any time?
So everything sounded good there. Audio sounds very clear, so everything is the way that we want it to be. At this time on the board, you can turn that Adobe pot down and get that out of the way. You can actually turn it off if you want to, because we won't need that anymore at this point. So let's take a look at the next step of what we have on our lab sheet. We've already done number 9, playing back track 2 and track 3 to assure audio quality. The next thing is for us to do is to start mixing. And I'm going to encourage you to do a test mix before you actually go through and mix it for real. That way you can get your levels set. And let me kind of show you how that's done. Let's go back to the editor here. So I'm on track 2 and track 3. Remember, my music is on track 2, my voice is on track 3. And what we need to do is put our hands on the B and the C fader on our audio console and kind of turn them up a little ways. We need to set the level on this, and it's always a good opportunity to start your levels with the voice. You always want to set the voice first, and then you can bring the music in later to adjust, and your ear will help you do the work there. So let's go ahead and we're going to hit mix here, and it gives you a number of options. You can mix from the cursor, from the beginning, from the end. Here we're going to mix from the beginning. It also gives you a chance to do a preview if you want to, and so that is mixing without seeing any VU that would happen in the mix track. So if I hit preview,
Do you have a few cents to spare each month?
I can actually set some of my faders and set some levels, but I can't see any VU. I can only set what I'm hearing through my ears. So let's go ahead and hit mix, and I'm going to choose from the beginning, and you're going to see it down here. You're actually going to see level, and again, you want to do the voice first. So let me turn the music down and hit mix from the beginning, and I'm only going to have my voice for a few seconds.
Do you have a few cents to spare each month?
Setting your level in NextGen in the mix track.
For the community, but you just don't have any time. Have you thought about rounding up your
So that's
electric
looking pretty good. Let's bring some music
By simply
in.
having your bill automatically rounded up to the nearest dollar.
Again, bringing the
you can
music
help
in, we
keep
want to
the
be able to hear it,
electricity on in a
but the
needy
voice has got to
family's house
dominate
this
the
winter.
commercial.
NPPD and the Red Cross have teamed up to offer this great service to Nebraska. For more information or to sign up, call 1-877-ASK-NPPD.
Okay, so that was a great way for us to test our audio. We checked out the voice first, and we got the level set on the voice, and then we added the music in to be able to get the level set to our ear and also to the audio levels in NextGen. So now I think we're ready to actually to mix this, and this will be our actual final mix that we're going to make here. So we're basically going to repeat that process, but our levels have already been somewhat preset. But when we're doing the mixing here, make sure that your hands are on the faders on the console after you've hit the record from the beginning button, because we need to adjust on the fly. If your music is too loud, you need to be able to pull it down. If your music isn't loud enough, you need to pull it up. Watch your level in NextGen, in the mix track, to know just exactly how this is going. So let's go ahead and go back to our editor here. Again, we're going to hit mix, and we're going to choose from the beginning and see how things go.
Do you have a few cents to spare each month? Would you like to do something for the community, but you just don't have any time? Have you thought about rounding up your electric bill? By simply having your bill automatically rounded up to the nearest dollar, you can help keep the electricity on in a needy family's house this winter. NPPD and the Red Cross have teamed up to offer this great service to Nebraska. For more information or to sign up, call 1-877-ASK-NPPD.
And you notice that that stopped by itself. When it got to the end of the music and the voice, it automatically stopped by itself. I didn't even have to hit the stop button here. That's because it ran out of audio. It ran out of stuff to be able to mix through. So it's done. It's just going to stop on its own. So you can allow it to stop on its own. You don't have to worry about hitting the stop button here if you don't want to. So everything is already mixed down, and during that mix, my hands were on the faders the entire time. And I was constantly adjusting. You might have been able to hear that, but maybe not. I was pushing the voice up a little bit more because I needed to add some more level to it. And then towards the end of the commercial, I actually had to add some more music in there too. So it's a constant mix. It really puts true meaning to the word jockey, because you're really riding those faders and mixing everything together. So let's go back to our editor here. You can see we've got the entire mix down that's on this track. Here's our white line to tell us where 100% is. Things are looking pretty good. But if we take a look at number 13, it says double click at the beginning of the mix track and assure proper mixing. So here's my mix track right here. I'm going to double click at the beginning so my red mark is there. And this time on my audio console, I'm going to turn up pot A. You can turn B and C down at this point if you want to. I'm going to turn up pot A because that's the one that I'm going to need to be able to listen to this in the mix track. And then when we save it to Assure Audio, you're going to use pot A for that as well. So let's go back to the editor here. So here's my mix track. I'm going to go ahead and hit play over here on the right hand side of the screen. Just play it through and make sure that it sounds okay.
Do you have a few cents to spare each month? Would you like to do something for the community, but you just don't have any time? Have you thought about rounding up your electric bill?
So that sounded pretty good. That was a great mix of both the music and the voice. Everything sounded good. The voice was dominant. The music was there. You could tell that it was there, but it wasn't low enough that it was too quiet, and it wasn't too loud to overpower the announcer voice. So that was a really good mix. What you want to do here, just in case you need to, you might want to go in, if you want, and trim the beginning and the end of this commercial. So again, let's go back to our editor here. I'm looking right here on the mix track at the beginning. I'm going to zoom in to about 2 seconds. There's just a little bit of dead space right there. And so I'm going to go ahead and delete that out. And this really, honestly, is getting kind of nitpicky. I mean, you're talking about a fraction of a second there. I'm going to go to the end here and do the same thing. So I'm going to zoom in to about 2 seconds, get rid of some of this dead audio. Again, leaving just a little bit of a gap right here. I don't want to take out I don't want to make it completely right at the end of the spot. You want to have a little bit of a gap at the end. So again, holding down both of my mouse buttons, I'll highlight that and hit the delete key. And we can tell by looking over here that our commercial is 29.57 seconds. That's about right where you want to be. Number of stations will send it back. If it's longer than 30 seconds, they're gonna send it back for you and tell you to redo that. And if you're trying to hit network time, then having something that's 30 or just a hair under is exactly what they're looking for. That way you can hit those networks on time. So let's go back to the editor here. Again, we're looking at the mix track. We can hit zoom and best fit, take a look at the whole thing. It's all looking pretty good. We're going to hit the exit button, which is right here. In labs previous, we've been able to hit the X key on the keyboard. That is not the case for this because we already mixed and everything is right down here in the mix track. So we're going to hit exit and it's going to save it into the system. And then on our slate, we can hit OK here. And so I'm going to hit OK. It saves it into NextGen, and you're still highlighted right here. The cut that I had is highlighted in NextGen right here. So I'm going to hit the play button. I'm going to listen to it again and make sure that everything's okay. So again, I'm using the A pot on the board. I'm just going to hit play real quick.
Do you have a few cents to spare each month? Would you like to do something for the community, but you just don't have any time?
So again, I just wanted to make sure that that's what I actually was mixing in there. So at that point, your lab is over with. Everything has been mixed. Everything is done. You've got your voice. You've got your music. It's 30 seconds. It's the way that it's supposed to be, and everything is wrapped up at that time. So when you're finished with that, we're going to go ahead and close our production window in NextGen and log out. And so now we're finished with NextGen. Don't forget to close down your board. So that means that we need to make sure we have all of our faders pulled down. I'm going to turn all of my pots off. On my Adobe computer, I'm going to close all those windows down. On my CD player, I'm going to pull that out and put that CD back away so everything is cleaned up before I leave the studio. So that's kind of a general overall review of Lab 3 of what you're going to be looking for here for radio production and performance. But also, it's a refresher on how to do some mixing inside NextGen. And you want to make sure that you are very familiar with this process. Because this isn't the only time that we're going to be doing this. In fact, you're going to be doing this for your entire career, at least something like this. So you're going to want to make sure that you get this down to an art, and you're going to spend a lot of time here working with this type of stuff. So as you're practicing in the production room, and if you have any questions, don't be afraid to come on in and ask. Either myself or one of the sophomores will be more than happy to answer any questions that you might have.